It's Leo, Family Heritage Living. Today I'm making breadsticks. I'm going to make some garlic breadsticks and I'm going to make some sweet breadsticks. And I just wanted to take a quick video for you so you could see how it's done if you've never made them before. It's a super easy bread recipe. This particular bread recipe can be used for, you can make rolls into it, you can make a crust into it, you can make anything with it that requires a dough. But one of the things that you want to make sure you do with this is that you make the dough light, not a heavier dough, because with breadsticks you want that light and fluffy texture. Now, we as a rule of thumb, because we just prefer it, we prefer to have sourdough bread here at our home mainly, probably 97% of the time. I rarely use commercial yeast, but in this case, breadsticks cannot be done with sourdough, unfortunately. So you get a nice pretzel from sourdough, but you don't get a breadstick. So let me show you what we do. I went ahead and I got the liquid ready, and it calls for, this particular batch calls for 6 cups of liquid. Per every 2 cups of liquid, you're going to use a tablespoon of commercial yeast. It calls for about a half a cup of some type of oil, some type of fat, whether it's melted lard, melted Crisco, melted butter. I use melted butter. And then about a 1/4 cup of sugar and about a teaspoon to 2 teaspoons of salt. And you can see down here how the yeast has proofed. So it's ready to go ahead and stir in the flour. Most recommend a white all-purpose, and that does make a beautiful breadstick, but I have a heavier flour. It's a light wheat, so that's what I'm using today. As you add your flour, be sure to stir your liquid so you can kind of get a good idea of how much you don't add all your flour and then stir. You may add too much flour if you do it that way. Okay, so you can see like on my breadsticks here how my flour is quite brown, and it's not going to be that way if you're using an all-purpose white flour. So I'm not really going to want to add a whole lot more flour than this. I'm going to want to add enough to where it's not sticky. I do not want a heavy dough. It will just not make your breadsticks light and fluffy. So I can't give you an amount of flour. It's really going to depend on the moisture that's already in your flour, how accurate your liquid measurements are. You're just going to have to go by feel. And this is probably where I'm going to leave it to see how it rises. I may have to add a little more flour when I get ready to form the breadsticks. But for now, I'm going to let it rest until it doesn't have to double in size, but it should start to expand quite a bit before you turn them into breadsticks. Okay, so I think our dough is ready. It has almost doubled in size. See how nice and jiggly that is. So that tells me it's ready. I'm going to sprinkle the top with a little bit of flour, because this dough will be stickier than normal. Again, that's because we want that light and fluffy flavor or texture. See how that pulls real easy? Now, when you do bread like this, it's been my experience, you don't pull it apart because you're breaking the elasticity and it takes longer for it to come up. I just pinch, but you do have to pull it enough to pinch. That's kind of a misnomer, I guess, when you say you don't pull it. But don't pull it apart. It's like a biscuit. You don't cut a biscuit. You take a fork and you break that biscuit apart. So you get yourself your dough rolled out like that between 2 hands. I twist slightly. Then I just line my pan. I'm never even with exactly how long they are, and that's okay. Now when I get these done, I'll cover them back up and I'll let them rise again a little bit, and then I'll put them in the oven. You know, if I had a daughter, and I don't, I have 4 sons. But one thing I would tell her that I would want her to know is to be comfortable in her kitchen. If you don't know something and it's something you find that you need to encounter all the time and you avoid it because you don't know it, learn it. being comfortable in your kitchen and providing good, healthy food for your family is really important thing. For every store-bought item that you have, there's always a homemade alternative. And when possible, it's usually, if it's not cheaper, then it's usually at least cost effective, and it's always healthier. Some things you'll never be able to avoid. I mean, you can't avoid everything. Once in a while, I like the commercial yeast. Once in a while, I like the white flour, especially on a sour cream Christmas cookie. I did a video earlier this week about casseroles, and a casserole, and I needed to have a cream of mushroom or cream of chicken soup, and I don't normally buy those. I'm not saying once in a while isn't something I do, but it's a norm. I just don't have that. But I do usually have chicken broth on hand, so I just make my own when I come across a need for that. And it's similar to making a chicken gravy. Alright, so there's the first pan. I'm going to do two. I'm going to cover this one up and let it rise a little bit. Alright, so one batch of our breadsticks is out of the oven. You can see how much they have risen from the rising process as well as the cooking process. Nicely browned on bottom and on top. The next thing you want to do is you want to butter these. You can use melted butter with a pastry brush. I do not have a pastry brush, and I usually take a stick of butter. It should be room temperature versus being frozen or being very cold from the refrigerator. And then you just go ahead and smear the tops. At times I will also either flip them over and smear the butter or bottoms, or I will butter them enough that I know the butter is on the pan and the bottoms are getting it. Just depends on how you want to do it. All right, so these are going to be our garlic breadsticks. And what I do, I simply sprinkle salt on the top. And then I take garlic powder and sprinkle the tops of them. Show you I'll break one open so you can see how. So this is a heavier wheat flour. So I can imagine with a white flour how light and fluffy they are. So now it's time to do our sweet breadsticks. I'm going to do the same thing, just butter. I like a lot of butter on the breadsticks though. I did not put enough on the garlic sticks I just did. So I'm going to put extra on here. And then all I do with these is I sprinkle sugar. Now you can add cinnamon to your sugar and make it a cinnamon breadstick. Cinnamon is not allowed in our home. Ron will not have it for even a second. So, and there's no sneaking it because he can smell it a mile away. So I just put a little sugar on them. And it makes, if you're making breadsticks for dinner, you make a batch of these, it's like dessert. You don't even have to do anything extra. Just change your topping. All right, so see how light those look? If I can get you another one here. That's what we're after. All right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. And as always, sharing on your social platform is a great help to us. It gets our videos out there where it may not have otherwise been able to find its way. So if you like this recipe, if you try it, if you have suggestions, if you already do it but do something different, please feel free to leave a comment below. And we will talk to you soon. God bless.